So, hello, this is Scott Carpenter. I wanted to do a little Sasquatch short here tonight. I've gotten a few emails asking the general question, are they always out there? Are they always watching? Am I always going to have to deal with this feeling of being watched, or knowing that anytime I go hunting, fishing, camping, or any kind of outdoor activity for a prolonged time, are they going to be there watching me? And the short answer is yes, but not always. In my experience, I've been doing, with the research for over 10 years, and then ever since the adult encounter and the research, them coming around during outdoor activities, and you kind of get used to it. And I know there may be some people that don't want to get used to it, but even with the rebuking and them having to stay in that 300-foot bubble away from you, that doesn't mean they're not going to interact. It doesn't mean they're not going to follow you, and sometimes push those boundaries, and they have with me. Now, it's not in anything dangerous or nefarious. It's just been some of the activity, has been interesting, and it is what it is. I mean, I go and do my thing now. I hike and I hunt and I fish and I camp and I go to log cabins and enjoy myself. And with not my primary function is not research or to go look for them or anything like that. And yes, they will find you. I've noticed that if you stay in an area that has Sasquatch, so if you go, let's say you take a trip, 100-mile trip, go to a cabin somewhere, if they're residing in the area and they know that you're marked, or you're someone who they will seek out, then yes. Within, I find it takes about 2 or 3 days. That's for me. That's other people have told me about that time. Sometimes a little longer, just depends. I've also, noticed that, like when I start hiking in a new area, like a couple years ago, I started hiking a new area in Tellico, and it was 4 or 5 miles away from any place I'd gone before and had any experiences, and it was on the third hike in this area. They showed up, or they let themselves be known by making grunts and doing some wood knocks. So it took 3 or 4 times. So that seems to be, that's my experience. Some people, it's more immediate. Now, it's my opinion that the Sasquatch aren't, of course, they're not everywhere, and but they do live in the rural woodlots. They live in areas near civilization. They live in parks. They can just about live anywhere they want to be honest with you. But there's obviously concentrations of them, around the state parks and federal parks and larger tracts of land that are uninhabited by human beings. But that doesn't mean they don't come into the cities. They're not right on the edge of the cities. But for the most part, in my experience, they're on the edge. In other words, they come into my small town and they rummage around and they dumpster dive. But they're not, usually don't specifically come in town to harass or go to people's homes. Usually, they did me, but I think I was one of the exceptions, just because I was doing research. But usually their purpose in town is to get food and forage, and then go during the daytime they retreat back to wherever their home place is. And around here it could be anywhere. I mean, a 25 to 30 mile track for Sasquatch is not very far and doesn't take very long. So they could travel from the mountains 30 miles to Maryville or to Townsend or to Gatlinburg which is even closer. Do what they're going to do and go back, go back to wherever their daytime place is, whether it's a cave, thick brush, old abandoned building, etc. But to answer your question, yeah, they're always going to be there, and if you go to an area where they are living, they're going to be watching you. I mean, that's their nature. They're watchers. If you go all the way back, the watcher angels, or the angels that sinned and had relations with human women and created the hybrid race called the Nephilim, and I think the Sasquatch is a Nephilim descendant, and so they're predisposed, through their genetics, to be watchers, to be observers, to be curious, and that bears out actually many times. Everybody's just I don't understand. They were just standing there watching me. I don't understand. They were looking at me through the window. I don't understand. They were, sitting across the field just watching us. And that's because they're genetically predisposed to do that. And they also, it makes sense from a strategic standpoint, because if you go into their territory, they want to make sure they got eyes on you and watching where you go until you leave their territory. If I was wanting to remain hidden and in a stealth type mode where I was, not wanting to be found and wanting to be left alone, I definitely would be on the alert. And when someone entered the area I was living in, I would keep an eye on them and watch them so I know where they were until they left. I mean, that's just common sense, and that's strategic. It's a method that the military uses, and so it's not, it's just normal operating procedure for the Sasquatch. And that, the whole time that I was doing research, as soon as I hit the woods, I had a tail. I had a watcher. One of them was watching me, telling me everywhere I went. And when I first started my research, it was an adult. It was pretty obvious, and it seemed like once the clan got used to me, then watching me and my escapades got, because I was doing research, doing the same thing over and over again, and it's kind of like, it's Scott again, and so I got the juveniles, pretty much, I did it for 7, 8, 9 years, and I'd say for more than half of that, I had a juvenile follow me. And I wanted to show you, that's why I did the back trail, because they're always watching. And this is a good one. This is actually with the old 480p, but this was in thick brush going into the feeding station. And this is the guy right here, was watching me. This is the actual still. There's two of them. There's still two good still captures before I swung my shoulders, and I didn't have the gimbal and stabilizer, but I was walking into this area, and you can see that one's a little closer and that one's a little farther away, but he's right there. And this one was kind of overexposed, because when I turned my shoulders to bright light, the sunlight was, he's back here in the shadows, but you can see the sunlight shining, and it's very thick going through here. And got a couple good still shots of him. He's about 5, 6 foot tall, maybe. I went back in there, and it's been so long ago, but I think he was a little under 6 foot, or right at 6 foot. Right in there is about 6 foot. Of course, he's hunched over a little bit. But he's got the classic raccoon eye deal going on with the brow and the high cheekbones and the dark, deep set eyes, and he's red to brown. And that's, even with his older camera, that's right there. He is. That's easy to see. And for all the pareidolia clowns, he's still there, even though I got farther away, changed angle, and so. If you change the camera angle and you change the shadows and you change the angle of attack, and you move, and the subject still maintains its integrity, then it's not pareidoia. Now, you know, some people claim it's a bear or some mountain lion or, you know, whatchamacallit, but it's obviously it's there. And, you know, it's actually, you can actually see a little bit, even though he's a little lower behind, got the foliage in front of his face there, you can actually see him a little better. The left here, his ears sticking out, his ears are sticking out, but he's right in the thick of it. And of course, my great camera, really bad adjustment. So, you know, here's a better one. This is contrasting everything, and I've squared him up there so you can see him. Darkened it a little bit so the eyes stick out more. And then here's that, blowing it up. Of course, you should blow it up, it gets worse as far as, but there that is. And then there's the other one where it was a different angle, but still there, still same tree. And there's the ear, his eye, his other ear. Like I said, too bad, you can see the bridge of his nose. Looks like he's got hair on his face. Too bad he didn't stand up, but that's about the best you're going to get. They're doing what they do, which is observe and watch from behind. There's the two side by side, like I said, different angles of attack, different distances, and maintaining integrity. So it's whatever it is, it is. It's not pareidoia. And here's another one. There's a couple close-ups. You know, for kicks and giggles, look at some of the other ones. I mean, that's how I get them, is watching me, observing me. And that's to answer your question. That's what I'm saying. They're always watching, even when you don't think they're watching or feel them. That's just it. I can usually gut feel them if they're close, usually. Not always, but usually. But this guy here, this guy here was high. This is the one that was, this is 4K. This is the main trail going out. And there was a lot of traffic on it this day, and me and my ex were walking down this trail, and I really didn't feel anything. But, you know, there was, like I said, there were all kinds of people, there was all kinds of things going on, and so I wasn't getting any vibe. And of course this guy, you know, he's back in the shadows here. That's, you can see him back in there before he even, and then he leans forward, and y'all have seen this before. See when he leans forward, he opens his eyes. He actually pushes the foliage forward, so it's pretty cool. And that's 4K. That's about as good as you're going to get when they're buried up deep in that stuff. I mean, he's huge. That is huge. He's been over. I've gone back there. He's that little hole he's been over in, so about 6.5 feet off the ground, and it's based on the size of his head. His head's like huge. Oh, sorry. But yeah, I always like that because you can see him. He's just back a little bit, and he just leans forward enough to get his eyes, get his face into the sun. You can see the shift. I shift just a little bit as I step. This is two steps, a couple frames. But yeah, and here he is. About as good as you're going to get. And you see black skinned, and top lip right there, his nose, his hair. So let's go. Here's the gray one. This guy was behind me. And I believe this guy's got gray skin, and he's got gray hair, kind of a bulbous head. I was blapping my mouth and actually talking about him, and I was looking, I had the camera looking at the camera, and this guy was over my shoulder. You can see his eye clearly, his nose. So yeah, they're always there. I cut it out so you can easier to see. Oops, went too far. But yeah, there he is. So yeah, they're watching you. You could just make the assumption they're watching. That's, I guess, if you had to ask me, if you had to pin me down, yay or nay, all things being equal, if you're in an area that is conducive, has enough, food, shelter, and then, I guess the old thing, if a bear can live there, then a Sasquatch can live there. And we're finding even, they can forage and dumpster dive, so they can even live in places, they can live in, in cities if they need to. They pretty much can live in anywhere they need to live. They're just like us, so they're not bound by some sort of, we got to live out in the woods thing. No, they'll live anywhere they can, where they can get food. And this is the old, this is the one again. This is the one my friend found here just a couple years ago. Me flapping my jaws again, and this is on the main trail in, not very far in. And he's I'm got the camera in my right hand, and I'm talking, and he's up here on the hillside in the thick stuff, and and he's up there doing his thing. See him right there? Oh, let me get this with a different player. There we go. I got it looped. See? Right there, watching. He's not there. Pops his head up behind the tree. Comes up. I start turning my head to the left. He goes down. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. But yeah, they're there and they're watching. And that's close up for you. See, right there. You can see the sun's coming this way, so it's shining off the side of his top of his head right there. He's black as the ace of spades. It's very dark, very black. There you go. Up. So now he's behind the tree. Pops his head out there. Right there. Watch him. Boop. 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 He comes out. He goes up. And I start to turn back to the left. He goes, oh, gotta go back down. And gone again. And right there, see that? I always notice that right there, something white right there. He's pushing foliage or something with his hand. See? See the foliage? Look right there. It's always fun to do this. See that? Look at that. I feel like I'm M.K. Davis and going over and over to him Patterson film, finding little bits and pieces of stuff. But M.K.'s right. I mean, see it? Look right there. Watch. Something white. That is so crazy. And that may be the sun reflecting off of him or something like that. And then there's our favorite. Everybody gets tired of, but it's the white one doing the classic coming up behind me and seeing me and ducking down. There he is right there. And of course, this is back trail. I'm not watching. The infamous white or blonde bear of the Smoky Mountains. I'm the only one that's ever caught a picture of him. But yeah. And so again, sneaks up behind me, notices I got a camera, can't have his picture taken, so down he goes. One of these days I'll do a longer, really, as you can see the top of his head. I get farther away and you can see the top of his head. He stays right there till, I guess, well, I don't even know when he got up, of course, but he's basically the top of his head. He stays right there, and he's kind of looking through the foliage. You can just see the top of his head. He's watching me go down the trail. Anyway, so this guy here, this is on the same trail. This is really just right across from where the other one was. This guy here. This guy here was right across from, this guy was up in the woods here. You can see there's a tree right there. He's not a zipper. Everybody says, he's so skinny. No, he's not skinny. There's all kinds of foliage in there. You can see that he's just peeking around. This happens to be a tree that's just in front. And he's watching us. And you zoom in there, you can see his eye very clearly. His nose, he's got this one's got like I guess an apish like face. You can even see his teeth. See, he's got a gap, a tooth. It looks like these teeth are all messed up. See that nasty mouth. It's nasty. See? Ears up here. Sun. It was late in the day. The sun's shining off the side of his forehead there. Crazy. And this is the one watching me. He was sneaking down this road. This is 480p. You can see the sun's shining off the top of his head. Creepy. But they're always there. They're always watching. Didn't feel this guy. I didn't have a clue. This one, I tell you what, didn't have a clue. This one was there. Didn't have a clue that one was there. This one, I knew someone was close, but it didn't know where. So, and this one I didn't feel. So it just depends. I like to say I feel them all. Usually, when I'm distracted in doing something, it's when they do this crap. And almost all of these I was distracted. Here I was talking to the ex. Here I was blabbing to the camera. Here I was blabbing to the camera. Here I was on my way out talking with the ex. On this one I was coming down a hillside talking on a cell phone. On this one my son was with me and we were talking. This one's the one in the Laurels where I was urinating. I felt I was being watched on this one. See her right there? Mouth's kind of crooked sideways. She was chewing something and her mouth's up. And you can see the eye right there, and the whites of the eye and the nostrils. She's right in the thick of that. And then this guy here, and this one zapped me. This was the very first capture. He had the black nose. And his mouth, his eyes, but he's right there. He was kind of this was a creepy one because I lost time, lost my memory. It's in my books. It's a real creepy story. I mean, he just told me, blacked me out, changed. I was getting ready. I had seen something in this tree right here. I'd seen him. I hadn't seen his face, but I could see a large black mass in that tree. It didn't look right, and I'd already made up my mind. I remember that. I even said it on the video. I'm going to go step in here and see what this is. And then the cell phone rang. It was my son. I talked to him for just 1 second. I'm out here investigating whatever. Hung the phone up, and then I start mumbling, incoherently mumbling. And then I don't go in here. I literally, and this is where I lose about 10 minutes of time. I remember the phone ringing and I talking to my son, and the next thing I know I'm up on a trail about 200 yards away walking when I kind of come out of this whatever it was I was in. And thank goodness I had the video, but I don't remember the video. I mean, in other words, the footage from right after the cell phone to me mumbling incoherently, walking up the top of the hill, and then turning and starting walking down the trail. That is about 10 minutes, maybe a little less. I have no recollection of any of that. So it was a missing time. Whatever he did, infrasound, he blanked me out, turned me off, and I just wandered off mumbling. So it wasn't the first time it's happened to me, but I think there was a whole family of them in here, not just this one. I think this was the granddaddy of them all. I went back in there, and he was hugging a cedar tree, and he had knocked limbs out of that cedar tree all the way up to 12 foot. And so it's definitely somebody I don't want to mess with. And that black patch on the nose, there was a BFRO report in the Smokies about 25 miles away, one very similar description with a black patch on the nose. So he's got gray skin, and then on the end of his nose he's got a black patch. So there you go. I turned a Sasquatch short into a Sasquatch long. But to answer the question, yeah, they're always watching, and you know, calling the name of Jesus always works. But you know, you just, and the way I approach it, I pray up, and I just put them out of my mind, and I go do my thing. I mean, I'm aware that they're possibly there. I go with my gut. If you know, I feel like that I need to leave, I leave. But I don't let it run my trip. I don't let it rule what I do. Like I said, I always have two options. Anytime I go out, it's just automatic now. I just have two options, at least two options, maybe three. If I'm going to go hiking, I have at least two to three places I can go. So if I go to one place, feel freaked out, something's not right, then I can go to another place. Same thing with fishing, same thing with camping. I always leave myself with options. It's just part of it. So I hope this helps you. And guys, like I said, I've turned a short into a long, but I get into these photographs and stuff, and I just, you know, it's always amazing to me that they got so close, and you know, we're just right there, and I didn't have a clue till afterwards. So guys, just be careful out there, enjoy your summer, and I'll talk to you soon.